Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. The video quality on this video might look a little bit different because I'm not filming this on my Pixel. So I just wanted to mention that in case the video quality looks a little bit different. Anyways, we're running some errands today. As you can see, I picked up some new tires for my S197 Mustang. And so while I'm over here, I figured why not go ahead and stop at the Junkyard real quick. I haven't been here in a really long time, and that's really just because the prices here have gotten outrageous. I remember like maybe 4 years ago when I started coming to the Junkyard, like the prices were expensive, but they were still kind of reasonable. And now it's gotten to a point where it's like, it really doesn't even make any sense, you know, like you're like pretty much at this point, you're just better off buying stuff new from the auto parts store. The best way I could describe it is they're selling used parts here for new part prices, you know what I mean? So like for the past like year or two, it's kind of like defeated the purpose of a junkyard, you know what I'm saying? This place used to be a place for like budget parts, but if they're not selling them at a budget anymore, then like what's the point, you know what I mean? So we're just gonna walk in the yard and take a little stroll. Last I heard, I think the prices for the engines actually went up. It used to be like 450 bucks. My dad came a while ago, he said it was like closer to $600 now with tax and core and everything included. And so if that's the case, like that's like pretty unbelievable, to be honest. That's unacceptable. But we're gonna take a little stroll in the yard just to see if we can find anything cool today. And so I'll bring you guys along with me. It's kind of loud out here, but look at this truck I parked next to. Ram 1500 lifted. That thing looks nice. I'm looking for like a 2006 Mustang. If you guys have. How much are the engines costing right now? Like the full engine with all the accessories and everything?
Like the alternator, starter, and everything?
Yeah, everything.
So everything will come out to
$732.41 with all accessories. I mean, y'all heard it here first, man. $732 for a full engine with everything included. That's crazy. $732. I mean, that's not a lot of money, but at the same time, if I'm gonna pay that much for an engine with accessories, I might as well just go ahead and buy it from the dealership or something. Anyways, let me go ahead and film some cars because I do see some pretty cool stuff in the yard. All right, we got this '06 Mustang. It's kind of like mine. It's not a premium. It doesn't have the leather interior like mine does. I think they barely put it into the yard. And like from the outside, it didn't really look like all that much. They already took the wheels off. They took the fenders off and stuff like that. But then I popped the hood. Look at that. This shit is clean, bro. They haven't even touched it. I don't really need any parts for my car right now anyways, but it is pretty cool to see that this whole thing is still complete. Usually by the time I come, everything is just taken apart and everything is gone. It looks like somebody put some money into this thing too before throwing it away, because this car has a brand new water pump down there. It also looks like it has some pretty new coil plugs, because those are not the OEM style coil plugs right there. So like engine wise, this thing doesn't even look all that bad. I'm assuming they threw it away because of a crash or something. I think this side, this fender must have been a little mangled or something. Got this New Edge Mustang GT right here. People already took some stuff from it, but it's not too bad. Has a some pretty big mufflers in the back right here, which is pretty cool. Still has the 8.8 rear end in the back. Those are worth some money. Every time I come here, there's a lot of parts that I can identify that I know are worth money, but aside from the fact that I didn't even bring any tools today, other than this screwdriver, I'm really not a parts reseller, so I don't care too much to take stuff off, even if I know it's worth money. These taillights right here too, they're in really good condition. They look almost brand new, so these would probably be worth a couple bucks as well. Interior doesn't look too bad. Whole front dash is actually really nice. Steering wheel is pretty nice. Seats are a little damaged, but these leather ones are a bit harder to find. But I'll leave all that stuff to the parts resellers. I don't really care to make any money here. I'm just here for the fun of it.
Alright guys, I had to voice over some of the rest of these clips because there were people walking around me and I did not want to sound like a weirdo talking into my phone. But anyways, here we have this newer generation S197 Mustang that was covered in stickers. It looks like it was in a collision, so that's probably how it ended up in the yard. Here you can see I was trying to open the door, but there was no handle. But it was pretty cool to find and pretty rare. Next was this New Edge Mustang GT that looked to be in some sort of midnight purplish kind of color. The paint was really cool. I think it was paint and I don't think it was a wrap. This one made me kind of sad to see because you could tell that somebody put, you know, some love into this car, and it looks like it was probably really nice at some point, but I would assume it probably got into a front end collision as well. As you can see, pretty much everything was gone. It had some pretty new valve cover gaskets, but that was pretty much it, and everything else was pretty much finished with this car right here. Up next was this little Civic. There isn't really anything super cool about this one other than the fact that it was a stick shift. I feel like most of the ones that end up in the yard are automatics, so it is cool when you find one that is a stick. This car had the infamous D series, which is again pretty common but still pretty cool. It still had a lot of good components like the fenders, headlights, and from the looks of it, I guess the car probably had like a cold air intake and an aftermarket muffler at some point as well. Up next was this 4-door EF Civic, which is again not super amazing, not super cool, but still pretty rare in my eyes. It had a pretty nice like burgundy reddish kind of interior, which I don't know if that's super rare for these cars, but I thought it was pretty cool to see. There I am saying hi to the camera. And there was actually still a lot of good stuff on this car, like taillights, fenders, doors. And then right next to it was a EF hatch in a nice blue color. It looks like it also had a blue interior at some point, although you know it's pretty faded by now. And there wasn't really much left of this car. Everything was pretty much gone. Next we had another Civic. This one caught my eye because it was actually a EK hatch, although there really wasn't much left of this car either. As you can see, there was no door handle, so I couldn't open it from the driver's side. The hatch itself was, I guess, pretty salvageable to a degree. There was really only one little dent right there on the right side. And on the passenger side, I was able to open the door, but there was pretty much nothing left from the inside. So pretty cool to find, but really not much left of this car. Then we had another pretty rare find right here. 300ZX. You don't really see these at the scrap yards really all too much, but this one again, not really much left of this car. Everything was pretty much gone, pretty much taken. No engine, no transmission, no nothing. Everything was pretty much taken at this point. Up next we had this car that I thought was a Eagle Talon at first glance, but then I walked to the back and it turned out to be a Mitsubishi Eclipse. What I hate about these convertibles whenever they bring them into the scrap yards is that people, for some reason, think they're like trash cans or something, and they just dump a bunch of parts into it that don't even correlate to that car. Like you can see there's a Maxima bumper in the car. Why would somebody do that? I don't know. But anyways, up next we had this older Nissan Fairlady Z. These are also pretty cool and pretty rare. I've always been a big fan of these cars. Hopefully, well, probably I'll own one someday. But again, not really much left of this car right here. Then we had another pretty unique find, you could say. I don't know if this was a SC300 or SC400, but the people that know more about these cars than I do will be able to tell whether it was a 300 or 400. Either ways, it was pretty cool, still pretty complete. There was still a lot of salvageable parts on this car, like quarter panels, maybe the tail lights, rear bumper, driver's side and passenger doors and fenders. But of course what I was really interested in was the engine. I wanted to see if it was a 2J or not, but as you can see, it was not. Alright guys, I think this one has the infamous 2JZ. I'm not sure, you guys can tell me what it is. I don't think it's a 2J. It's obviously a V8, so this is probably like the 1UZ or whatever else the other one is called. That sucks. I thought it was going to be a 2J. Another rare one, Subaru Impreza. I've never seen one of these before. So I've never really been a big fan of these Subarus, to be honest, but there was still a lot of good parts on this car. Specifically all the 4 doors with the windows. They were all intact and in very good condition. Now I'm not too sure why or how this car ended up in the yard. I would assume it was because of some sort of mechanical failure, because I quite frankly didn't see anything that indicated like a collision or like a crash or anything like that. So who knows why this car ended up in the yard, but it was pretty cool to find. I think this is the first time I've seen a Subaru in the yard. And then lastly we had these 2 clapped G35s that were probably owned by some Edgars at some point. This one was wrapped in a horrendous like matte blue kind of color. I mean, if you're gonna wrap your car, I would at least choose a pretty color. But there was pretty much nothing left of this car. In terms of the front, there was no engine. You can see there the trans is just dangling. No headlights, no nothing, no bumper. Everything was pretty much gone in the front. The interior wasn't really all that impressive either. It was pretty trashed in there, you could say. And then the one right next to it wasn't really much of a showstopper either. However, the interior was a lot nicer on this one. There were still a lot of salvageable components in there. And aside from that, that was pretty much it. This car really only had like an aftermarket front grille, but pretty basic.
Alright guys, so that's pretty much going to be it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think about the prices here at the scrap yards. I don't know if this is like just a California thing, but I feel like the prices are just way out of whack here right now. So like I said, it's gotten to a point where it's really not worth it. At this point, I just source all my parts from the auto parts store or off the internet. But regardless, it's always cool to come every now and then just to see, you know, what cool things I can find in the yard. But I definitely do not come as much as I used to because, again, there's just really no point anymore. So I don't mean to sound like I'm complaining or whining or anything, but you know, it's a little crazy how the prices have gotten, not just on the major drivetrain stuff like engines and transmissions, but even on the basic stuff like headlights, taillights, fenders. So I don't know, maybe it's just a California thing, but you guys can let me know down in the comments below. Anyways, I'm gonna go grab some lunch and I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned for more videos. Like, comment, subscribe, all that cool stuff, and I'll see y'all in the next one.